All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen here. All right, can everyone see that okay? Awesome. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our Big Valley Groundwater Sustainability Agency public meeting. My name is Marina Delajanis, and I serve as the Deputy Water Resources Director here for Lake County Water Resources Department. I also serve as the lead for our Big Valley GSPAC committee. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it around to my team for introductions, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. So take it away, William.
Hello, everybody. My name is William Fox, and I'm a Water Resources Program Coordinator with Lake County. And today I'll be talking a little bit about domestic wells, the monitoring program in Big Valley, and some of the resources that Lake County has been able to receive from California DWR, and also some of the resources that we have on our website for citizens to take advantage of as well. And then I'll pass it over to Christy.
Thanks, William. I am Christy Clark, and I am with Stantec Consulting. I have been working in Lake County with Marina and William and Scott DeLeon since, gosh, I think it was about April of 2020. So it's been a little while. I'm working specifically on outreach and engagement and things surrounding what we're going to be talking about tonight. So we'll talk a little bit more about it later. Maritza, I'll turn it to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maritza Flores. I'm also at Stantec supporting Christy and the Lake County team, public affairs assistant to Christy. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So let's go ahead and just do a very quick overview of what we'll be chatting about today. So we did our welcome and introductions. Again, a friendly reminder, if you're able to put your name in the chat and if you feel comfortable, please go ahead and do that. We see some new friends and faces on this meeting, so this is going to be exciting to share with you what we've been doing in our Big Valley groundwater basin. Going off of that, we will just be doing a very quick 101 of what is a GSP, a groundwater sustainability plan. And then we're going to pass it over to our Stantec friends who will be diving deeper into the Big Valley stakeholder communication and engagement, and then also passing it over to William, who will be going over the Big Valley groundwater monitoring. So I want to just set the stage. We will be throwing some acronyms in there. I hope this covers it. So just to get everyone on the same page, a GSA is a groundwater sustainability agency. A GSP is a groundwater sustainability plan. GSPAC is a Groundwater Sustainability Plan Advisory Committee. Again, we have our Big Valley GSPAC. And then we also have SIGMA, which is Sustainable Groundwater Management Act of 2014. So let's start off with SIGMA. What is it? So in order to balance levels of groundwater pumping and recharge, the California Department of Water Resources, they passed the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, referred to as SIGMA, which was signed into law of September of 2014 and became effective in 2015. So SIGMA is comprised of 3 bill packages, AB 1739, SB 1168, and SB 1319. So basically what this bill packages provides is it provides us local agencies the framework for managing groundwater basins in a sustainable manner. So in order to do this, in order to achieve sustainability, SIGMA requires groundwater sustainability agencies, GSAs, in high or medium priority basins to develop and implement a groundwater sustainability plan, a GSP. And basically what this GSP is again, a roadmap to sustainability. Now we do have a medium priority basin. We only have one priority basin in the county, and that is Big Valley Basin 5-015. So what these GSPs do is they provide a roadmap for how groundwater basins will reach long-term sustainability. And again, this is very long-term. So what we're doing is we're in the process of developing this GSP now, and then with the goal by 2042 to achieve that sustainability. And as we know, this looks different for each groundwater basin, and we'll go into a little bit of those sustainability criteria, avoiding the 6 undesirable results, etc. So going a little bit more about GSPs, they will be submitted to the Department of Water Resources via a portal. For critically and overdraft high priority basins, they were submitted to the state this year. They have reviewed those. And then for our medium priority basins, we will be submitting that to the state by January 31st, 2022. So that's what we're currently working on. Of course, SIGMA and DWR and the State Water Resource Control Board, their focus is ensuring local control. So as you can see with this graphic here, we have different entities that are involved. So we have DWR, which is the California Department of Water Resources Agency. They serve as a regulatory and assisting agency. The State Water Resources Control Board serves as assistance, oversight, and enforcing agency. And the GSA, which are board of directors of the Watershed Protection District, who also serve as the board of supervisors for the County of Lake, also serve as our Big Valley GSA, and they serve as the planning and implementation agency. Now, during this entire GSP development process, we work very closely with our stakeholders. So that is exciting that you guys are on this call. You have the ability, and we definitely encourage you to get involved in this entire process. We have a very quick timeline coming up, but we're rocking and rolling with it, and we are going to get it done with the help and support from our community. And again, Sigma and DWR, they outline very clearly what they need in a GSP. And one resources that we've been utilizing and that other GSAs are utilizing is the Groundwater Sustainability Plan Emergency Regulations. And here are the different phases of the GSP development implementation. We are currently on phase 2, which is GSP preparation and submission. So with phase 2, again, that will be due to the state January 31st, 2022. But you still see there's a few phases afterwards, and that's where stakeholder engagement and outreach is going to be very important. And I'm going to pass it over here in a little bit to our friends at Stantec to cover that. So again, where are we currently at with our Big Valley groundwater basin? So right now we are on phase 2. Again, all this is taken directly from resources provided by the state. We work closely with them. We work closely with our stakeholders to make sure that we are developing the best groundwater sustainability plan for our basin to reach that sustainability criteria by 2042. I would like to highlight just a few key dates that we have been able to hit for our specific Big Valley GSP. So in November of 2019, we applied for our Sustainable Groundwater Management Grant, which we were then awarded through the California Department of Water Resources. The county, we were awarded $1.4 million through this grant to develop this GSP. So these are the funds that we have been using to develop this GSP. We have also received facilitation support services through DWR as well, and that's how we've been able to work very closely with Stantec Consulting Services, who have helped us with our stakeholder engagement and outreach. In March of 2021, we selected consultants to aid in our Big Valley GSP development. So our consultants are Ludorf and Scalmanini and Stantec Consulting Services, and we will be going deeper into the work that they've been doing here shortly. And then since March of this year, we've held roughly around 8 Big Valley GSA and GSPAC public meetings, and we'll be sharing with you all how you can remain involved with those. These are all public meetings. Hopefully in the future we can meet in person, but right now we've been meeting virtually and it seems to be working pretty well. So we're going to keep going down that route. And then we also have our Big Valley GSA and then GSPAC charter document, which again, all these resources are on the website. And that was approved by the Big Valley GSA in April of this year. So just highlighting phase 2, which we're currently at, again, this was taken from the regulations. So you can see how clearly they outline what we need to do, how we need to do it, what we need to do. So again, just keeping that close communication with the state and catering this framework to our specific Big Valley basin. All right, so how do you stay informed? So we have many avenues that you can stay informed. You can connect with us, you can connect with our consultants to help us develop our Big Valley GSA or GSP. So our Big Valley GSPAC meets at 11 a.m. Pacific time via Zoom conference call on the 4th Friday of every month. So this is a standing meeting that we have, and we have our consultants on board. We have the GSPAC, and then we also have interested citizens as yourself who are able to participate in these. We also record all of our meetings, so if you're not able to catch the fun in lifetime, we have these meetings recorded, such as this one that is on our Lake County Water Resources YouTube page. If you are not a fan of YouTube, you can also go to Water Resources, and we have these videos up on our Water Resources page. William's going to go a little bit more into detail about our Water Resources page. We have lots of documents that we update on a daily basis in terms of our Big Valley GSA, the GSPAC, the GSP, anything groundwater, anything water resources related. We also are very active on Facebook, so we like to make events as this one. A few of you were able to find out about this meeting from our Facebook page. And again, just providing information. We also share information from the state. Anything in terms of water resources here in Lake County, we're very active on Facebook. And one thing that I would like to highlight specifically is our Stay Connected page. So you can find this by going on our water resources page, and you just fill out this form. You put your name and your email, your address, city, phone number, and then whether you're in or out of the basin. And again, we have the tools where you can go to on DWR to find out if you're in the basin or not. We have our Big Valley Basin. And this way you'll get our daily, or not daily, that would be kind of excessive, but hey, we all love groundwater here. You will get our routine emails notifying you of any meetings upcoming, etc. So you can stay connected via email as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Maritza Flores with Stantec to highlight some of our Big Valley stakeholder communication and engagement. Again, one thing that Sigma really prioritizes is that local control and that local knowledge of our groundwater basin. So go ahead and Maritza, passing it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Marina. So hi, everyone. So this evening, we are going to offer everyone some background on the communication and engagement planning as it relates to the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, otherwise known as SGMA. So throughout this presentation, there are slots where folks can chime in and provide feedback as we're walking through this segment of the meeting. And as a reminder, there will be another opportunity to provide feedback and questions, comments at the end of this meeting as well. So next slide. Thank you. So why are we focused on outreach and engagement? So simple answer is water is important for everyone. So as you can see from the slide, there's this list of public engagement benefits from the California Department of Water Resources publication that focuses on engaging with communities on groundwater. So some of these public engagement benefits are the following. So in having public engagement, it can definitely help in people weighing in on a variety of different perspectives, and it also allows us to listen into each other's views. It definitely helps build common understanding, managing differences, and establishing direction for moving ahead on top issues. It helps build trust and improve communication between the public and its leaders. It creates new opportunities for citizens to become involved in public problem solving and decision making. Next slide, please. So included in the 2014 Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, again, otherwise referred to as SGMA, is the language that guides agencies on the types of groundwater users that should be included in this process of developing and implementing the Groundwater Sustainability Plan, otherwise also known as GSP. So if we read what's on the California Water Code presented here on the left side of the screen, it says that it's meant to encourage active involvement of diverse social, cultural, and economic elements of population within groundwater basin prior to and during the development and implementation of the Groundwater Sustainability Plan. And so on the right of the slide, we can see that there's a table that does describe a list of the different categories and stakeholders of groups that can be involved within the GSP process. These types of categories are often called beneficial users and uses of groundwater. And so not all beneficial users and uses of these categories will apply to a specific community. Each area is definitely different, and a community stakeholder should represent its varied local interests. So if we go on to the next slide, please, we can see which of these beneficial users have been identified within Lake County. And so on the right, we can see that there is an alphabetical list. All beneficial users are important. So just because one is first doesn't mean one's more important than the other. As you look at this list, see and think of whether we're missing any other folks that are within Big Valley Basin that should be part of the table that have not already been identified. So on this list, we have agricultural users, we have the economic development, so that those are folks within Lake County, environmental users and uses, so that can be entities such as the Chief Council for Clear Lake Hitch. We have human right to water, so that's an association to the disadvantaged communities in the region. We have general public community members, land use, private users, and so those are folks that have a domestic well that don't necessarily get water out of a water purveyor. And then there's the tribes. And so as we're going through this list, we want to take a moment to see, Is there anyone else that should be involved in this process? What other organizations might be interested in groundwater conversations? Who else might be impacted by impacts to groundwater? So I'll just pause here and see if there's anything from anyone that would like to chime in and see, is there anyone else that should be involved that has not already been included? And on the bottom specifically, we have the logos of some of these entities that are involved. And so, yeah, we have Farm Bureau, Chi Council for Clear Lake Hitch, Kelseyville, Unified Districts. So I'll just go ahead and pause here for a minute.
And Marina, if you wouldn't mind popping back to the previous slide that has the listing that DWR, there you go. That might help jog some people's memories or just some ideas of some different entities that and why folks are thinking about that, maybe it might be helpful. I realize one thing that we didn't put in here is how did we identify those stakeholders? Because I know that might be a question that people have. And back when we started this, when the Facilitation Support Services program started, we looked at who were some of the entities who had been involved in groundwater issues and topics over time historically within Big Valley Basin. And even though we're very focused on the SGMA and groundwater sustainability plan right now, groundwater has been going on and things have been research-wise and analysis going back in time. So how far back, Marina, would you know like about how we definitely have 20, 30 years worth of, yeah. So a long time. Groundwater is not new in Big Valley. So one of the things that we did when we first looked at the stakeholders was to look at who has been involved in those conversations prior to. And so through that, and then going through this list and some other lists like it, of just trying to look at those beneficial users and uses, that's how we identified that list. If you want to go forward one slide, Marina, to what we came up with the local focus of kind of the entities that made the most sense for being beneficial users and uses of. But we know this isn't a complete list, and we know that even the DWR table isn't a complete list. So we're really trying to solicit information from the community about what other groups might be contained in this list of stakeholders or beneficial
and I would
users.
like to add, if it's okay, Christine, right? So we are missing one logo on here, and that is the Lake County Land Trust. We have a new GSPAC representative on our GSPAC committee, which is who is associated with the Lake County Land Trust.
And I can keep talking. One other thing that I want to note is that one of the areas that we really would like help with and would really like some feedback and commentary and assistance with is finding representatives and advocacy groups that would represent the underrepresented users. Those are called sometimes in some of the original SGMA language disadvantaged communities. When Lake County went to apply for the grant to develop the groundwater sustainability plan, they identified that, Rena, is it about 83%? Was it 83%? Of the Big Valley area is considered a disadvantaged community. And that is designated as such based on household income and based on some other different tools that the state has to be able to analyze that. And so we've had a really tough time of trying to be able to find even the groups that we might approach to be able to get into some of the different communities and some of the different places that we might be able to engage different underrepresented users. So particularly looking for people to help us with that in the community.
Did you see the question in the chat, Christy?
I have not. Let me. Does environmental users mean wildlife? It does. That is one of. I think that environmental users can be a variety of different things. You'll hear probably some talk of groundwater dependent ecosystems. You'll hear things like some of the recreational aspects of things are environmental uses. And then definitely things like the wildlife. So it would be the Clear Lake hitch is the protected listed species that is there, but it could be a variety of different species or wildlife. It could be birds. I know that we've had somebody join us before from the Audubon Society, which we always love to see their name come up too. So yes, the answer to that is yes.
Well, if there are any additional entities that we should include, feel free to add it on the chat box, or feel free to contact Lake County through the website, and I believe their email should be on there. So definitely feel free to contact them. So if we go on to the next slide. So on this slide, it provides a brief overview of the steps that are associated with the communication and engagement planning. So on here on the right, essentially it describes what's involved. So it's really setting a set of goals for desired outcomes, identifying the series of stakeholders. As Christy just mentioned, this is an effort that was initiated early last year of all those different entities shown on the last slide. Stakeholder survey and assessment, messaging and development, the venues for engaging, implementation timeline, and evaluation and assessment. So essentially all these steps are provided as guidance, and it's important to remember that it isn't a static process. It's one that can and should be in constant motion. And so at this point, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Christy. She'll go and provide a deeper dive on a lot of the communication engagement planning that has occurred since the beginning up to now.
Okay. Before we dive into this next slide, I want to reiterate the fact that when we talk about the communications and engagement plan, it has a very specific name because it is called out as a requirement of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act language. And so we definitely, as part of the GSP process, need to produce a communication engagement plan that shows that we've thought through things, that we've considered the different potential beneficial users and uses of groundwater. And while it's a requirement, and we've talked a lot already about what are those parameters and the guidance that we've been given, I think that one of the really special things about the communication engagement plan is it's definitely tailored towards the communities that they serve. And so these next two slides are going to talk a lot about how you localize that requirement. And so this plan will go forward and it will be a living document. It will continue to provide the foundation that kind of sets where we started with groundwater communication and engagement. And then it also is very forward thinking and should always be very forward thinking. So while we're very focused on creating this plan to be part of the submission of the groundwater sustainability plan that's due in January of 2022, this entire plan will live on and still grow through the 20-year process that SGMA has dictated that we'll be under. So definitely lots of time and lots of energy toward us being able to build momentum and to engage with the community a little bit more. So let's talk a little bit about what this is going to do and how we have started to unroll it locally. So the purpose of the communication and engagement plan, and apologize for reading bullet points. I don't normally do that, but I know Sky is on his phone and doesn't have the luxury to be able to see these. So Sky, we will get you the full deck, and the entire deck of all of these slides that you're going to see will be available to everyone on the website as well. But the purpose of the communication engagement plan is that it meets those requirements that we're beholden to, but it also details each of the different activities that are undertaken. And so any planning that's gone into this, so when I just described about these stakeholders and how they were identified, all of that kind of archived history about how they have been identified, what type of efforts have gone into it, what type of meetings have been held, what type of public meetings like this have been held. All of those things become part of the record and go into the plan. But the plan also takes a very forward-thinking approach of how will you communicate with those individual stakeholders. It's not enough to just check boxes and say, okay, we've thought of the people who are beneficial users, but also looking at how we might be able to engage them at the different stages of the process, or to engage them when something is very relevant to them, when a particular part of the planning process or the implementation process are very relevant to them. So looking kind of at the strategy of when we engage different users at different times. But it also talks about stakeholder involvement and feedback. And we will, one of the things that I think, let me back up for just a second. So Stantec works in a lot of different basins, and we work with a lot of different entities to develop all kinds of different reports and plans around groundwater. And one of the things that I have to say that I really appreciate about Lake County is how much thoughtfulness is going into the actual looking at how can we incorporate feedback. And I think I'm going to say this, and don't everybody hold me to it, because there may be somebody who does the same. I do not know of another basin who has as much public facing, transparent, just everybody's included in all of the meetings as what's going on in Lake County. And I think that's inherent in the energy and kind of the focus of water resources. But I also think it has to do with the fact that the community has a history of working together on a lot of water issues. And I think it's a very unique thing that I would be very proud of as my community, to be able to say that. Anything that we have done for meetings and planning is all available via recordings and on the website. And I don't think that there's another basin who can make that claim. So that's kind of an exciting component. And then also the methods and tools used for the communication. The C&E plan has to identify and explain in pretty good detail about exactly what's gone on in the process. So we're going to dive into that last bullet point just a little bit more as we transition to the next slide. So we'll go ahead and go on the next one. But before I start this, which are some specific examples, I just want to stop and see if there are any questions from anybody. I know sometimes this can seem very rapid fire. So, anybody have any questions? Okay. All right. So now we'll go into the outreach activities. And this is by no means very specific about this is all that we're doing. This is just kind of an overview of all the different ways that we are doing outreach activities. There are quite a few ways in addition to this, and you'll find a lot of those on the website. You'll find a lot of links to them and information about it as well. So in this, we kind of broke this down a little bit into the same headings that DWR has as part of their requirements. And they're things like, I think they call meetings, they call them venues for engaging. I think they have some fancy term that they use for it. But the meetings that we have are the advisory committee meetings. They're referred to by the not very friendly sounding GSPAC is what we call that. And what that is the group of stakeholder representatives who meet every month that Marina talked about. By the way, that when we meet in November and December, those won't be the fourth Friday of the month. They're actually going to be backtracked. So you'll find those altered dates for those two. You'll find those a little bit, you'll find those on the website, that they're going to come a little bit earlier in the month. And then also any kind of briefings or workshops at key milestones. And I'll also put in that we have a series of subcommittee meetings that happen. Those can be on things like groundwater dependent ecosystems, or they can be on different types of very technical aspects of the groundwater sustainability plan. And all of those you will find on the website. They are publicly noticed and posted. And then if you can't make it to it, but you're interested in some of the different information, those are always posted. The recordings are always posted. Things of different presentations that are done. So like this public meeting, I believe this is our third. We had a couple of sets of public meetings. Those are available on the website as well. But there are always just public meetings that we have. Generally, they tend to be a little bit more educational and background in nature. And then also the Board of Supervisors meetings. I think Marina has all the way back to like October or November of 2020, she's been doing updates for the Board of Supervisors and letting them know. And those can be on a variety of different things. I know that she's done an overall, what is a GSP? And then she's also done different types of things like just explanations of some of the different parts of it. And those are available via the Board of Supervisors website. So those are all archived as well, and they are in the agendas. So those are all publicly noticed as well. And then some of the digital aspects or electronic ways that we can connect. We have a list called an interested parties list. Some of you may have come across that, and that's why you found out about this meeting tonight. And that just gives us a chance to send out, if you're interested in getting information, we promise not to send a lot of stuff to your inbox, but when things are relevant, letting you know about meetings, letting you know about key dates where decisions might be made or recommendations might be made, those type of things. And then also those website pages that are from Water Resources. And I think that you said William's going to be talking about them in a little more detail. William's been doing a terrific job of keeping those updated with all of the information. And then also resources that are posted online for easy access. And one of the things I think you'll see growing is making some of the materials that are statewide offered, and then also in some other regions also being able to be used by Lake County as well. So bringing resources to people that they can get more information about things, because I am not a scientist myself and I need those tutorials often. So, and then community events and social media is our last little bucket of activities that we have here. And that's utilizing the county's, the Water Resource Department has specifically social media accounts where sometimes they post fun videos that I always like to watch. I always love the smiling faces and the neat things that I learn. So going there, posting copies of flyers, notices, and resources, and having those be in hard copy form, that is an area that we would love some feedback from the community as well. Is there a posting board that a lot of people walk by, that a lot of people find the information at? Is there a place where we can even digitally post things, maybe homeowners associations, or they might be at a church that has specific places where they post things and people kind of peruse them and look at them. We'd love to hear more opportunity for us to get things out, to get things posted. And then coming up in the next couple of months, as hopefully the COVID restrictions allow us to be able to have some in-person type events where we can outdoors at first, meet maybe either at like a tailgate type of thing or at a farmer's market where we can just have very informal chats about what groundwater is and what it means to Lake County. Why is water important from both the county's perspective and from individual people's perspective, and to have those kind of conversations. And then also to have an open house setting where people could come and they could get a variety of different information from everything from experts to people who just, can bring resources. There are opportunities for us to do a variety of different things that are very local. And all we need to do is just hear that there's a need for it. And I'll give the example. As part of the program that we work on, that Maritza and I are here from, it's called the Facilitation Support Services Program. There is also an entire layer of that is written translation services, where if we know that there is a particular group of people who need materials in a specific language, we can get things translated into that language. And they also have a very deep set of resources that are already put together that are just kind of background information. So if we need to avail ourselves of that specifically and have opportunity to be able to chat with folks who could help us to, get those into the hands of different audiences, we definitely have those resources available. So looking at some open house things and things down the line that we can be able to do in person. So as we stay on this slide, and I take a deep breath, all of us have been talking a lot, I know. What I would love to do is if this kind of makes you think about something and say, hey, have you thought of, we would love to find out and hear from you. What are some of the ways that we can offer information to the community? What are some ways that you know people hear, see, or experience information? People can unmute themselves or raise their hand, whichever they like. Do you have any takers? I will put it out there that when we did an initial assessment of the stakeholders that we went to originally and did surveys, there were some very interesting things that kind of popped up in that I personally would not have expected to have been big ways to do it. Everybody mentioned websites, everybody mentioned social media or just postings, but utility bill inserts was one of them that they suggested. And I thought that was interesting because I didn't realize that people actually read those, but pretty much every single person said, hey, that's a great place for people to find out information. So anything else like that? Anything else that we're missing or specific to Lake County that you know that's where people read information or see it? We have a very quiet group tonight. Okay. The other thing that I would ask too is that have there been other topics or things, and they don't have to be water related, they can be on anything within the community, that you think an entity has done a really good job of publicizing or getting information out? It could be, it could be fire prevention. It could be a variety of different things. Has anybody seen anybody who's done a really good job of doing that kind of stuff?
I'll speak up here. This is Miley Field.
Hi, Miley.
Hi, I'm in the Kelseyville area. I used to be a journalist in this area, and one of the things I've noticed is people talk to each other a lot in the community, and the grapevine, to use a cliche, is a lot stronger than any news outlet. So I would suggest that if any of you really want to get involved and get the word out, that you make yourself known to social groups that actually meet. I'm thinking about where people gather outside concerts. I'm not involved in any religious communities, but, and then the other thing is just, if you can provide an incentive to get people involved. And then I had one other thought before I go back to mute. I know that there's a really super knowledgeable body of people, and they are the guys that go around and test wells and fix pumps. And if you could somehow get those guys involved, they're dealing with the people who care right at this moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they have a lot of knowledge, even if they might not have a lot of education about geology and stuff like that. So that's all.
Sure. No, that's a great one. That's a great one. Miley, before, and you can go on and off mute at random, but are there any groups? You said concerts and events. One of the things that clearly everyone has struggled with is in COVID times of not having those kind of gatherings or places. But then I know that sometimes there are entities that will still gather, in the bubble or however, or they feel more comfortable, or maybe it's outdoors or however. Are there groups that you know of that are meeting again, that would be really good opportunities? Because I know events are kind of slim at this point, but are there any other groups or things that are happening?
I'm sure there's a lot of groups that have other interests, like I think the Kelseyville Business Association, the Cobb Area Council, there's police groups, there's fire groups, there's people who get together for all kinds of reasons. If you could, I don't know, get onto, create an entity that becomes a member of all their Facebook pages, and then very politely ask permission to make a posting.
Sure. Oh, that's a great idea.
That comes to mind. Or another idea would be to submit an article or something to to the local media and make it sound really interesting.
Well, I know that there are people who focus on water issues that work in a variety of different electronic media that's online, because I've read some great stuff. I'm a former recovering journalist myself, so I always love reading the local news. But the working through some of the social media channels of the groups is a great idea. That's a fantastic idea.
If there's anything I can do to help, let me know.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I want to make sure I make a plug. I know we've talked about this before, but the interested parties list, if you all are not already on there, you definitely should go on there. It's on, William, are you going to talk about that specifically during your presentation?
Yeah, I'll talk about it briefly, but you can touch
Okay.
on it a little bit more in depth if you would like to.
So it's in the water resources web pages that William's going to talk about. It's a Stay Connected, and it's just a quick little form that you fill out, and it populates into a spreadsheet that then when we have things like the meeting news or just updates, and as we grow this a little bit more, you'll probably get some more like educational things to it and things like that. So if you're not part of that interested parties list, please, we don't, we don't fill your inbox with a bunch of extra stuff, and it's all very groundwater focused. So if that's something you're interested in, please take a moment to join that. Okay. Excellent. So we've provided this brief overview of the communication, outreach, and activities. And again, this is just a piece of what we're doing. And if there's anything else that bubbles up in your mind and you think of, we're going to give you at the end of this presentation, I'll put the email in the chat box so that everybody has it, of where you can send ideas just off the top of your head. Because sometimes when we're just sitting around, we think, hey, that would be a really great place for someone to find out about this. So please continue to communicate with us and let us know. All right, so now everybody wants to know the big question of what's next. Where are we going with the communication and engagement plan? So we'll go to our very last slide here. The way that this particular slide is segmented, there are check marks on some of these items and then just bullet points on others. All of the check marks are things that we've already kind of moved through. And so that puts us down at the time frame where we're trying to finalize a draft communication and engagement plan. I apologize that everything gets turned into acronyms in our world. It does, but we're in that part where probably we're about 2 weeks away from having an actual draft plan. That plan is about 20-ish pages and will spell out all the things that we've been talking about, but it also has some other pieces to it that are very structural and according to the requirements, but there are also things that we found out locally that are kind of the exciting and more fun things as far as some of the activities and tools. That information, when it comes out, will be available to everybody, and it will be posted on the website as a document that people can review and that they can actually comment on and help us to develop that particular document. And then and that's in the distribution part, which is that second bullet point. And then out of all the comments that we get back from both the advisory committee members, but then we're working with a lot of different advocacy groups and different organizations who represent different types of beneficial users and underrepresented users. So we'll take their feedback and incorporate it as well. And we'll finalize that communication engagement plan. And at one of our advisory committee meetings is when they will formally say, yep, the plan looks like a great foundation and a great place to start from. And at that point, what they would do is they would send, they being the advisory committee, would send it on to the board of supervisors to be able to, they're the sitting board of directors for this groundwater sustainability agency. And they would say, you know, here it is, here's our communication engagement plan. And then it doesn't necessarily get formally like voted upon or anything like that, but it would be formally accepted as kind of like that foundation piece. And then it would just continue to grow through there. The last piece that's not on here that is important for the communication engagement plan, I said that it gets folded into the overall groundwater sustainability plan, but there will also be a chapter in that groundwater sustainability plan that talks a little bit more about the importance of community involvement, especially in a place like Lake County that is so tightly knit, that does have so many good opportunities to do things that a lot of other entities don't have the good fortune to be able to do. So that chapter will also explain over and above what the communication and engagement plan does about all of the ways that Lake County can do some really neat things. And I think there's some really good stuff ahead for Lake County in that regard. So with that, that's the end of that. And I would just say that this is a continuing conversation, and this is just a small bit of this. There's lots of information that exists about that requirement of the communication engagement plan, but our hope tonight was just to be able to kind of present it to you and to let you see what it is and let you ask some questions. So let me go ahead. I'm going to put an email address for everybody into the chat box. So if you should have any questions as you go along or want to make comments, that would be a great email address to use. If you think about it, if you could just put the acronym GSPAC, and I'll put that in there for you, that's helpful to include for us, because what that does is it just flags it for us that it has to do with this whole planning process and development process that we're doing. But if you don't and you forget to do that, that's okay. We'll probably still get it too. But so I will offer one more time to just open it up. If anybody has any questions about the community and the community's involvement in this process of developing this groundwater sustainability plan, we'd certainly be happy to answer any questions. All right. Well, hearing nothing, then I think I'm going to turn it over and we're going to talk a little bit about domestic wells. And I will also put just the acronym for that email in this chat box for you. But thank you everyone so much. William, I'm ready to hear yours, William. I'm pretty excited to hear this one.
Thank you. Again, everybody, my name is William Fox and I'm with Lake County Water Resources. And I'll be talking a little bit about domestic wells, our monitoring network across the county and in Big Valley in particular, ways to get connected and stay involved, a little bit about how we do our monitoring and steps going forward and opportunities that we've utilized and opportunities for you, the public, to utilize as well. So if you can move to the next slide. Before I go into this, I'd also like to touch on the fact that we are designated as a medium priority basin, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're an at-risk basin. The prioritization, it's also on our website how it was calculated, but it has to do with amount of wells in a close proximity, anticipated growth rates, and then agriculture in the basin as well. So again, just because we are a medium priority basin does not necessarily mean that we have problems with groundwater. With that being said, I'd like to move into this. And groundwater in Big Valley has always been a hot topic in Lake County. Lake County started their original well monitoring back in 1948. And you can see on the left there, those are some of the first measurements back in 1948, and you'll see the state well IDs on the left and then the measurements kind of on the right. And then in 1967, Big Valley groundwater recharge investigation was prepared by the Soil Mechanics and Foundation of Engineers. And it's also really important to note that they would not have been able to prepare that report without Lake County already starting their monitoring network previously. So our monitoring network is really, really critical to us developing any plans, management, or policy in the future. And then everybody, please feel free to chime in and question whenever you feel free. I want this to be kind of informal. And so if you have any questions or comments, or you think about something that might be really helpful, then feel free to either raise your hand or just interrupt me. I won't take it offensive. If you can go to the next slide, please. So the current monitoring network in Big Valley includes both monthly and biannual monitoring. Now, monthly monitoring is only done in Big Valley and is done on a subset of the biannual wells, 12 of them. And the county has been monitoring wells monthly in Big Valley since the early 1990s. Biannual monitoring is done throughout Lake County on 81 wells total are measured across the basin. But interestingly, 47 of those wells are located in Big Valley. And thus it's obvious to see that a large focus of Lake County groundwater program has been focused on Big Valley in particular, both historically and currently. Next slide, please. So now the method of data collection in the county has also changed over time. Historically, all the data was kept on loose field sheets shown on the left. And in the early 2000s, a groundwater database was created and all those field sheets were processed for record keeping. Now we utilize Survey 123 in conjunction. And if you want to press that little thing, Marina, yes, thank you. This will kind of show you how we use Survey 123. And it really allows us to make sure that we're inputting the data more accurately than on the loose field sheets. It saves a lot of time and reduces the possibility of error when transferring data between those loose field sheets and then our database. And you can see that the Survey 123 kind of mimics that field sheet, and you fill out kind of the forms, and it makes it really easy for anybody who hasn't previously done well monitoring before to kind of just use this application and just fill in the fields. And then once all the fields are filled in, you would just send it and it gets received on kind of the cloud, and we're able to input it in that database, but all of that data is saved electronically rather than having to manually input it. And we also, I want to shout out the website. We continually try to shout it out, but we've made a big effort to improve it. And the data, the monthly data, as well as the biannual data gets added to our website and some of those approximate locations, so you can kind of see a big picture of which wells we're monitoring. Next slide. So now I'm going to go into how we measure the wells. There's two ways which we measure water surface elevation: the steel tape and the electric sounder. Now, the steel tape or the wetted tape method is the tried and trusted method and has a higher level of accuracy, but tends to take much longer. And this is because you have to chalk the end of the tape for a couple feet, and then you drop it. You drop the tape into the well to either the last recorded measurement or the established measuring point for that well. You record the wetted surface of the tape, and then you record the total tape length. And then you would subtract the wetted surface from the total tape length to get your water surface elevation. And now the electric sounder saves an immense amount of time because the sounder does not have to go to that deeper wetted portion. It simply sounds as soon as it comes in contact with water. But then the flip side of that is it could possibly lead to error when sounding preemptively on a wetted well casing. If you want to continue on. Is there any questions before I move into kind of describing these figures? All righty. So the above figure is taken from the 2019 groundwater report and depicts the spring 2018 groundwater elevations. And you can see how the groundwater elevations are higher in the southern portion of the uplands in the basin and decrease as you move towards the lake. Spring groundwater elevations are typically much higher than in the fall due to recharge into the basin, into the aquifer through precipitation and snowmelt that occurs in the early spring months. Next slide, please. And then this figure is similar to the last taken from the 2019 groundwater report. And this one depicts the fall 2018 groundwater elevations. And in this map, you can see how the groundwater elevations are lower than in the spring. And there's typically more variation in measurements for the fall readings because the effect of groundwater pumping is more pronounced in fall readings. And if you want to move on. And this diagram kind of merges both of those previous two together, and it depicts the variation between spring and fall measurements. And you can see areas with a large difference in spring and fall measurements could possibly have wells that have either been pumped more, which leads to variation across the basin. Some people could possibly think that a groundwater basin or aquifers are kind of homogeneous across the basin, but there's actually a lot of variation, and it has a lot to do with the lithology, with the very localized conditions, and then also how much is that user pumping. If you want to continue on. So where does this data go? We've been collecting this data since 1948. And recently, California Department of Water Resources also developed their own database back in 2009 called CASGEM. And certain wells across California are deemed as CASGEM wells. And typically they're deemed as CASGEM wells because they have a long monitoring history, and thus they're important to California DWR to keep that routine monitoring network. I was stating before how if we weren't monitoring those wells, we wouldn't have been able to produce those diagrams in the 1967 groundwater report. Well, California DWR also realizes the importance of this continued monitoring. And so they request us upload the data that we've been collecting historically to their own database for monitoring across all of California. Next slide. Now, going forward, there's been some very exciting developments in the Big Valley Basin. California Department of Water Resources has continued to provide opportunities to local government agencies. Christy and Maritza have already spoke on it a little bit, but they serve as our Facilitation Support Services, or FSS, and that was a separate grant that we had to apply for. Marina applied for it, and we received funding for the FSS program. And so we're really, really lucky to have Christy and Maritza and to be able to hold these public meetings. They really do help with our communication engagement plan, and we would be struggling without these facilitation and support services. And then going off of that, we've recently received technical support services, or TSS, through California Department of Water Resources too. And they provided resources to test groundwater quality on a subset of Big Valley wells. And this is really exciting because there's been no analysis of groundwater quality conditions since 2007, and we're the first groundwater basin in all of California to utilize these technical support services for groundwater quality analysis. And the testing of water quality for this whole suite of analytes that you see on the right would have not been possible because it would have just been cost prohibitive for us to do it. So we really, really rely on California DWR to utilize these services and to really produce a GSP that would reflect the needs of the basin. And then going off of that, like I said before, it's just critical to addressing these data gaps because you can't really develop management or policy if you don't have the data to back it up. And so the field samples from the TSS of technical support services for groundwater quality were collected on the 26th of July. They were submitted to the lab the next day, and California DWR informed Lake County staff that results of that analysis should take 3 to 6 weeks. And results will be distributed to those well owners and also incorporated into the Big Valley GSP. Is there any other questions? If not, I will move to my last slide. I just want to give another shout out to our website. We've really put a lot of effort into it lately, and apart from the staying connected and staying up to date, we also have our draft chapters of our Big Valley GSP posted on there. The introduction is posted, the basin setting, and just today I uploaded the plan area. I think it was titled chapter 2.2. And there's some really, really interesting stuff in that chapter. It kind of there's stuff I don't think you would be able to know unless you read that chapter. It's kind of new developments from our groundwater consultants. And so our well data is also available on our website that we collect monthly and biannually. I've also posted surveys on our website. So if you'd like to join our monitoring network, I go around the wells monthly and biannually. And like I was showing previously, I drop either the sounder or the electric tape and measure that groundwater surface elevation. So if you're interested in joining that network, or somebody actually recently just submitted an interest form to it because their well is running dry. So if your well is also running dry, if you want to submit a form to that, we're also really interested in if people's wells have run dry. That's really important to the development of our GSP. So with that being said, the last resource I also want to let you guys know that's on our website is we have a possible grants, low interest loans for construction or repair of our domestic wells. So if you're interested in repairing or constructing a groundwater well on your property, I advise you to check out our website too, because we have resources there for you to utilize. Thank you, everybody. And I really enjoyed the participation, and I'm glad you guys were here to see this. Thank you.
And just our final departing slide for you all is, of course, just our contact information. One last shameless plug to our website, where you can find all things Big Valley groundwater on there. Christy did put our water resources email in the chat. Thank you, Christy, for that. And if you are able to, please put GSPAC in the subject line. This is our main water resources email, so we get lots of emails, as you can imagine, and this just helps us flag that email right away so we can respond as quickly as possible. As we've also outlined, we have been able to utilize resources and been provided support from other entities as well, including the State Water Resources Board. They have plenty of information on their involvement in the Sustainable Groundwater Management Program, and of course, our friends from DWR. So with that being said, we will be going ahead and taking any questions that you may have right now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but this presentation, the recording and the slides, we posted on our website in the next few days. So with that being said, thank you all for joining us, and we will be available to answer any questions or hear any comments that may be provided from you all. Thank you, Miley, for the comment. We appreciate your input, and thank you so much for joining us again. We have a lot of new friends on this call, so it's always fun seeing new faces, and definitely appreciate all the feedback and support. I know I got a lot from your comment as well, so we're definitely going to try some avenues. And if I have to go and do a little song and dance at the next Kelseyville, Kicking It in the Country, I might have to, so stay tuned. Thank you, Terry.
And before people, if they are going to jump off and don't have any questions, I would love it if people would put in the chat box how they heard about tonight's meeting. And then also, if you want to just say, what was it that was on the agenda tonight that kind of brought you here, that you were like, yeah, I want to go hear more about that. And third, it's like homework. Third is, what other topics do you want to hear about? What other considerations around groundwater do you want to know about? So if you just want to pop those into the chat prior to leaving, or you can go ahead and say them if you'd rather not type.
I know one suggestion I heard was about well health. So if anybody's interested in that, put that in the chat.
I feel like we should have some like groundwater poetry or songs or something that we can sing while people wait to comment or ask questions.
So maybe a song would be beneficial. Probably just get started on that. Awesome. Thank you, Terry. Lake County Wine Grape Commission, Kelseyville Rotary, perfect.
Rotary is always a gangbuster way to get the word out.
Mhm.
Big fan of the Rotarians.
There is.
Don't encourage her.
Yeah, don't.
If there's a street dance, yeah. Oh, we have a question about, is there a study or research of the Blue Lakes water basin? Marina, William, what do you know about that?
So we do not have any anticipated plans for our Blue Lakes water basin. I don't believe we test any wells in that area. We could get an idea of the closest well to that basin, but that would be in like the Upper Lake area, which is still ways away out. It's not in the actual aquifer. So we do not have a plan or anticipated plan for that area in the aquifer. Right now, our priorities are focused on the Big Valley groundwater basin. And then I believe that was David who inquired on that question. Yeah, so
Correct.
David, yeah, so it is not a priority basin as outlined by DWR. So we only have one priority aquifer in Lake County, and that is our Big Valley groundwater basin. William, would you like to add anything onto that statement?
Not particularly, just that I know Angela does surface water quality kind of irregularly on Blue Lakes, just because it is such great water quality compared to Clear Lake. We test Clear Lake monthly on water for water quality. And I know I heard a funny anecdote about Blue Lakes that it's bottomless. And then me and Marina had to look that up, and apparently it's 300 feet of depth. So
Wow.
I thought that was really interesting.
A little bit deeper than Clear Lake. And again, if you folks can't think of any comments or questions right now, you're more than welcome to come see us on the 3rd floor of the courthouse. You're also more than welcome to give us a call, send us an email, passenger pigeon, whatever works for you, we'll be there. If you see any of our friendly faces on our water resources staff, whether it be out on the lake, doing water quality sampling, I know that we're gonna have a stand here at the Lake County Fair for our quagga muscle prevention or quagga zebra muscle prevention program. We have one of our technicians who will be there. Feel free to swing by and say hi to him. But any way that, if you see us out and about, we would love to chat with you, hear any comments or questions that you guys have on Big Valley or just Lake County water resources in general. So. Bye, Miley. Thank you so much for your participation this evening. It was fun.
Much appreciated.
Yes.
William, I want to make sure, is Sky, is he on mute or not on mute?
It doesn't seem to be on mute. I saw him kind of chime or like it switched to his view throughout the thing. If he maybe knocked his phone or something like that.
Okay. And Sky, if you can hear me, I sent you a copy of the slide deck of what we just went through in a PDF file, because I know that's easier for you to pull up. So.
Okay, great. I'm here. I have been emailing comments to Marina because I do not have her text number. So.
No problem.
But anyway, thank you for that.
Thank you for always being so good about joining us with everything, Sky. We really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Are we done now?
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably hang out for another 10-15 minutes just in the event that somebody joins late and just has a question. So we definitely said we'd be open until 7. So we'll keep the open shingle up until 7.
Thank you, Sky.